So a few months ago, I made a video discussing how many shares of Tesla stock you'll need to retire by 2030, and in today's video, I'm going to be updating my predictions, seeing as quite a lot has changed recently. For one, back when my video was posted on March 31st, Tesla stock was trading around $1,100 per share, while it's now down over 45% from its highs to $660 per share, meaning the cost to buy the required number of Tesla shares in order to retire has gotten significantly cheaper. And second, Tesla just confirmed that they're going to be doing a 3-for-1 stock split after their annual general meeting in August, so I'll be updating all of my future price targets to reflect this, along with a few other minor changes. In fact, I'll be going over my bear case, base case, bull case, and weighted average case to figure out exactly where Tesla stock could be by 2030, and thus how many shares you'll need to retire. I'll also be revealing my own personal Tesla stock position at the end of the video, so make sure to stay tuned. All I ask in return is that you retire that like button to help make these Tesla stock predictions come true, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing for more videos just like this. I also wanted to thank today's video sponsor Concrete, but more on that later. Alright, now before we can calculate how many Tesla shares you'll need to retire, we first need to know how much money you'll need invested to retire by 2030. Currently, we can see that the average living expenses for a household in the US are about $5,100 per month, so we'll use this as a baseline to calculate our monthly withdrawal rate by 2030. However, inflation will likely make our living expenses quite a lot higher by 2030, so assuming an inflation rate of 3% per year, this would bring our average living expenses to about $6,500 per month in 2030. But of course, we also want to have spending money on top of the amount that we pay for our living expenses each month, so let's assume that we withdraw $10,000 per month from our investments by 2030, and therefore $120,000 per year as an annual withdrawal rate. Now, using this retirement calculator online, we can see that $10,000 per month would last us over 40 years if we were to have $1.5 million invested that was continually growing at 8% per year, which is about what the S&P 500 returns after inflation on average. Alright, now getting straight into my Tesla stock valuation model, what I'll be doing is estimating Tesla's earnings per share, or EPS, all the way to the year 2029, since we do want to retire by 2030. To start, I took average analyst EPS estimates for 2022 and 2023, which I found on Yahoo Finance under the analysis tab. So in 2022, analysts on average expect Tesla to produce EPS of just over $12 per share, representing just about 80% growth year over year, while they only expect EPS of about $16 in 2023, representing about 30% growth over 2022. Then analysts expect Tesla's EPS to continue growing at a rate of about 42% per year over the next 5 years, which in all honesty I do think is a bit conservative. That's because Tesla has been very clear in their guidance, stating over a multi-year horizon we expect to achieve 50% average annual growth in vehicle deliveries, and thus revenues will grow at that rate too. Furthermore, EPS should continue growing faster than revenue since Tesla is growing their profit margins as they become more efficient. Anyways, I'll use analyst EPS growth of 80% in 2022 since I do think this is totally realistic given their growth rates this year, but I am going to modify 2023 EPS growth estimates to 60%, up from about 30%, which I believe is completely reasonable considering that revenue is still going to be growing above 50% in 2023. Finally, for 2024 onwards, I'm going to be using this EPS growth rate as a variable in the bear case, base case, and bull case to highlight the different growth scenarios for Tesla over the future. And since we know that stock prices follow EPS over the long run, we will be able to calculate Tesla's stock price by applying a trailing price to earnings ratio in 2030. But before we get into the bear case, I'd like to tell you about today's video sponsor, Concrete. Concrete is an investing app that allows you to easily start investing in private equity real estate with as little as $1 and without the need for a long-term time horizon. Basically, Concrete operates a fund that gives predictable yields backed by real estate, so you can essentially invest in fractional shares of private equity real estate deals. Currently, the annual returns that you can expect are 5.5% in distributions, which is far better than holding your cash in a savings account, and it's also a great way to diversify away from stocks. And each dollar that you invest in Concrete's cash flow fund is backed by real estate that has more value than the amount you invested, so you can rest assured that you're buying an actual asset. Over 30,000 investors already use Concrete to generate consistent returns, and the app has an overall 4.4 star rating, which I think is solid. So if you're interested in signing up for Concrete today, make sure to click the link in the description or the pinned comment below to download their app. And with that said, let's get back into the video. Alright, so we know our net worth target for 2030 is $1.5 million. Tesla's stock price is currently at around $660, and their trailing adjusted PE ratio is around 73 right now. Now, starting with the bear case, I've assumed Tesla will grow its EPS from 2024 onwards by 30% per year, which is below analyst estimates of 42.8% over the next 5 years. I also assume Tesla will have a trailing PE ratio of just 30 at the beginning of 2030. Now, if you weren't aware, Tesla just announced a 3-for-1 stock split, which will take place after their annual general meeting in August, so I'll be calculating the pre-split and post-split stock prices today. Anyways, if we multiply Tesla's EPS by their trailing PE ratio in 2030, that will give us a stock price of $2,828 per share pre-split in 2030, or $943 per share after their 3-for-1 stock split. This would equate to a market cap of $3.27 trillion, assuming no further dilution or share repurchases. Now, assuming this bear case is accurate, you would need 531 shares pre-split or 1,592 shares post-split in order to be able to retire off Tesla stock by 2030. And to buy all of those shares today, it would cost you around $350,000 US, which would then turn into that $1.5 million at a compounded annual growth rate of 19.9% by 2030. Personally, I think this scenario is quite unlikely, so I only gave it a 10% probability, which is the weight that I used within my weighted average price targets that you'll see in a minute here. I believe Tesla should easily be able to grow their earnings above 30% per year well into the decade as they expand their production capacity, solve FSD, create a robo-taxi network, etc. And considering this case is far below analyst EPS growth estimates over the next 5 years, that just goes to show how bearish this case really is. Now, moving on to the base case, I'm assuming an EPS growth rate of 40% per year from 2024 onwards, which isn't unrealistic at all considering that this is still below analyst EPS growth estimates over the next 5 years. And a 2030 PE ratio of 45, so pre-split, Tesla stock would be worth $6,616 per share in 2030, or $2,205 per share post-split, corresponding to a market cap of $7.66 trillion based on the shares outstanding today. Now, assuming the base case is accurate, you would need 227 shares of Tesla pre-split or 680 shares post-split to be able to retire off of Tesla stock by 2030. To buy all of those shares today, it would only cost you around $150,000 US, which would eventually turn into that $1.5 million by 2030 at a compounded annual growth rate of 33.3%. And just think about that for a minute, a 33% compounded annual growth rate. That is over triple the average market returns, which are about 8 to 10% every year. And keep in mind, we still haven't even analyzed the bull case. Anyways, I personally think this base case is the most realistic scenario for Tesla stock over the next 8 years, which is why I gave it a 75% weighted probability. But now let's take a look and see where Tesla stock could be in 2030 if we're being extra bullish. In the bull case, I'm assuming a continued EPS growth rate from 2024 onwards of 50% per year, which is assuming that Tesla is executing extremely well and they're not slowing down very much. Then I'm assuming a 2030 trailing PE ratio of 60, which really isn't that bad considering that they will be growing their EPS at 50% per year. Now, pre-split, Tesla stock would be worth over $13,300 per share, whereas post-split, they would be worth about $4,400 per share by 2030 if this scenario were to come true. In that case, you'd only need to own 112 shares of Tesla pre-split or 337 shares of Tesla post-split in order to retire by 2030. To buy all of those shares, it would then cost you $75,000 US today, which really isn't that much, and it would eventually turn into that $1.5 million by 2030 at a compounded annual growth rate of 45.5%. Now, this would be an absolutely insane growth rate for several years to come, and I think that it'll only come true if Tesla executes perfectly well and they have really good growth drivers continuing for many, many years to come. And I made the bull case probability 15%, which is slightly higher than my bear case probability since Tesla continues to surprise investors and beat analyst expectations regularly. And if Tesla can develop the humanoid robot and start selling it by 2030, as well as completely cracking the code on FSD, I feel like these estimates are quite possible. Also, there are probably so many things that we don't even know that Tesla's working on today that will eventually become part of their production and sales in 2030 because they are such an innovative company, so it's really hard to tell where the stock could be in 8 years. Finally, in my weighted average case, I combine the price targets from the bear case, base case, and bull case, all based on their respective probabilities. And this would be considered my most likely scenario since it does account for all of the probabilities of the different cases. So after doing all the math, my weighted average pre-split price target for Tesla stock in 2030 is $7,250 per share. After the 3-for-1 split, this would come out to about $2,416 per share. And assuming no dilution or share repurchases by 2030, this would leave Tesla with a market cap of about $8.4 trillion. Pre-split, you would need about 207 shares, or post-split 621 shares of Tesla stock in order to retire by 2030. The total cost of those shares at today's prices would be about $137,000 US, which would eventually turn into that $1.5 million by 2030 at a compounded annual growth rate of 34.9%. So guys, my best guess based on the current market price for Tesla stock is that we'll see a 35% compounded annual growth rate until 2030. Finally, I did promise you all that I would share my personal Tesla stock position with you, so here it is. Currently, I hold about 63 shares of Tesla stock at an average cost basis of around $840 per share. And as you can see, I've been buying the majority of my Tesla shares using the NEO Exchange ticker symbol for Tesla here in Canada, which only costs about $20 per share. That makes it much easier for me to accumulate as many Tesla shares as I can as the stock price goes down, even if I can't afford a single full Tesla share. Anyways, I just wanted to end the video by saying I am a huge fan of Tesla and I think they're going to do extremely well over the long run. The growth prospects are just amazing right now and I just don't see them stopping anytime soon. So let's hope that my weighted average price target case comes true, and that would bring a 35% compounded annual growth rate. That would be incredible. But please don't invest all of your money into Tesla stock based on the predictions that I've made in this video. It's always important to do your own research and due diligence. Anyways, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you have not already to help support my channel. And with that said, I will see you guys in the next one.